All right, it's 6 o'clock, so I would like to call the Shelton School District meeting to order. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Pledge
allegiance
allegiance to the
to the flag
flag of the
of the
United States of America and
and
to
to
the
the
republic for
for
which
which
it stands, one
one
nation, under
under
God,
indivisible
indivisible, with
with liberty
liberty and justice for
for
all.
all. All right. Have all of you had a chance to take a look at the agenda?
Yes.
There are some changes to the agenda tonight. Item 5.02 lists on our agenda that it's the September and October 2021 budget status report. Brenda, it sounds like continues to have some issues with printing out an accurate report for October, and I'm seeing her shake her head, so it's probably some big issues. So tonight, that report's just going to be September, and that has been updated to the packet that is listed for us. There's also been a revision to the personnel report, so 6.02. That also, both of the documents have been posted in the board packet folder for tonight, those revisions, but I did want to make sure that everyone was aware of that. So with those changes, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move that we adopt the agenda for this evening with those two changes.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. Hearing none, the adoption of the agenda has passed. So let's go to item number 3, which is the superintendent's report. Wyeth, would you like to, hello.
Thank you, Board President Davidson and other board directors. Excited news. We'll be running all of our bus routes. So we are positioned this week to lift off with our bus routes, all of them. And we have a few more bus drivers joining us. They'll be completing their training here shortly. So we will have a backup supply of bus drivers. There are still some technical things every once in a while. So when I say that, does not mean perfection, but it does mean that we are back to our general way of operating, shall I say, even just pre-COVID. So that's good news for us and our students. It's something we wanted. And again, I would really want to thank our bus drivers. We have a super awesome crew. Brenda and I were out there last week because of the dear loss to one of our bus drivers, Mac, and very unfortunate. But when we're out there, you can see that crew is very tight. You know, it's kind of like a family of bus drivers and support personnel. And so the folks that run the bus barn. And so I just want to say thank you to all of those employees out at the bus barn for us and doing all that great work. And of course, Brenda's work with them. So that's good news. And then this is just kind of a technical time of the year in the cycle of public education. It's kind of when the rubber meets the road. Kids are in classes. We've already gone through our first trimester. You start to understand where some of the issues are and where we need to evaluate specific services and programs and make adjustments about this time of year. And just as this time, you also start to really work into preparing for the next school year, believe it or not. I know it seems kind of crazy, but we're really looking at things that are working right now for us, slight adjustments in the interim, and then really thinking about long-term plans as well documented. We are working on our strategic plan. We're way into the weeds on that work. It's going, actually, I have to say, fabulous. We're wrapping up our focus groups literally this week. That's ending with some of our work with the Chamber of Commerce. So that's our last group around community leaders and business leaders. So that'll be exciting for us. And then we'll be packaging all that information along with the survey and stuff for the steering committee to wrestle with, which they already have begun to do. One just last detail is just, yes, it is the finer technical time of the year. So we are out in classrooms. Visited a number of classrooms last week, along with some other central office personnel and principals. I know we have Principal Johnson on this line and her fine assistant principal, Mr. Alex Brown-Smith. We've had not one conversation, but two conversations last week around literacy instruction and other elements of supporting our educational services for our students, and in that particular case, elementary level. And so you'll hear actually some things from them about our shared work together as a district to further support literacy instruction and also around social emotional learning and positive behavioral supports. So we're way into it here. Great to be out in classrooms. Thanks to all those teachers for letting us in. And so that's really just where I'll end it. Looking forward to getting already to 2022. So thank you very much. Back to you, Board President Davidson.
Yeah, thank you very much for your report. So we'll move on to item number 4, which is the first opportunity for community comments. And I will read the instructions off for this. This will be the first time I've been board president before, but it's been a few years and we always were live. So this will be a little new for me. So let me take a moment to read this. As part of the regular school board meeting, the board invites community members to make public comments in person and or by phone as conditions allow by calling 1-253-215-8782 and entering meeting ID number 854-3386-9913. Our public comment procedure allows each person 3 minutes to speak, and comments will be heard during the community comment period as listed on the agenda. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the board is not allowed to discuss items not on the agenda, but may direct the superintendent to follow up on issues that arise during public comment. Please be mindful of how you present your testimony, as the board will not allow complaints against an individual staff member or student in open session unless that individual has requested an open public hearing. Please follow the public comment procedure by stating your name when recognized by the board chair. So Bob, do you see anybody that has called in or raising their hand for comment?
No, ma'am, I do not.
Okay, well, I know from watching Sally, we need to give it a few moments of a pause because there's a bit of a delay sometimes with the people that are watching online. So we'll give it a few more seconds and see if anyone decides to call in. And there is another opportunity for community comments later on in the meeting if somebody would like to. So at this time, since we're not seeing anybody call in, we will go down to item 5, which is reports and recognitions. And the first one is 5.01, report from our student school board representatives. And I didn't see if they were on the line tonight. Do we have, I do see Audra. Audra, would you like to begin with your report?
Yeah, sure. So at Choice, basically what's been happening is we just got done last week with our Spirit Week, and that was really fun. And then lately what we've been focusing on this week and then this coming week for right before winter break, we've been trying to get check-ins done and basically just check in with all the students and seeing how they're doing before they go on break.
Oh, yeah, that's great. Thanks, Audra. Do any board members have any questions or comments for Audra at this time? So Audra, I've got one question for you. You said that Spirit Week was a lot of fun. What was your favorite day for Spirit Week?
Honestly, I would have to say my favorite day was when all the advisories had to go out into this one classroom and take a picture with Santa Claus. And the person in particular who dressed up as Santa, his name is Ron, and he's very known at Choice, and he's actually one of my favorite teachers.
Yes, Ron is well known. He is a great guy. That sounds like that was a lot of fun. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yes.
All right, I
Looks like
don't see the
any
other two. I don't see Richard Beckman on here yet or Quinn unless not seeing their name. So if they join us later, we can catch back up with them. So let's move on to 5.02, which will be the September budget status report with Brenda.
Good evening, President Davidson and Shelton School Board. I'm going to share my screen. A lot of things open right now. Okay, are you able to see that? Okay. Thank you for being patient with me on the reports. Our division of our ending fund balance is not posting correctly and when we're running the report. So they're working on it, but we made it through September at least to get that one done. And so I will present that and hopefully we'll be able to do October and November at your first meeting in January as our plan. So for September, the general fund balance ended at $1,688,094.94. Capital project fund ended at $254,105.61. Debt service fund was $2,803,934.84. Our associate student body fund ended at $460,681.87. Transportation vehicle fund ended at $241,714.16. And then we have our private purpose trust fund, which houses the 3 scholarships that we have, and those total $236,011.59 for the month of September. Are there any questions?
I don't have any questions at this time. So if any other board member has a question or wants to make a comment, you're welcome to do that. Otherwise, we will continue to move on.
I
So
have no question.
No questions.
Okay, great. So let's go to 5.03, which would be the budget and staffing for the 2022-23 school year. And that will be with Brenda and Linda.
Okay, I need to share my screen again here. Linda and I are going to tag team here, so I'll start off. So we are putting together, thanks to Wyatt, I guess a more advanced budgeting process, and it definitely is earlier, which will, as the board members that have been on here know, we're still scrambling in July trying to finish budget. So this is going to help us a lot to get this done earlier and be able to hire earlier. So that's what you'll see here. This has a January 31st enrollment projection deadline. I've already been working on those this week, obtaining enrollment projections from CTE already, bilingual programs and special education, working with them. So we shouldn't have any problem meeting that deadline, if possibly even earlier than that. February 11th, the enrollment projections, I will convert them to staff allocations, which we currently do that right now, but it's usually later in the process. And then February 15th, district leadership will be getting together, and Wyatt and I will be doing training on budget and staffing process for what we're going to use now. I'm currently working on writing some procedures to be able to train them on how we're going to do it this next year, I guess it is. February 18th, we're going to do the verification of position codes and employment status for each currently funded position, determination of how many contingency contracts for which positions will be granted after Human Resources connects with each building. So Linda will talk to you about that.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. So this really goes also along with the next line down, February 21st. We know that we have a certain number of vacancies every year. And it's usually about 15% of our certificated staff who leave us. And then we also have a good idea at the turn of the new year about who's talking about leaving and retiring. And because we know that information, we will be able to offer contingency contracts. We don't necessarily know exact assignments at this point, but we do know we're going to have vacancies. So we'll be able to post on February 21st after we've done the process Brenda's just gone through. It'll allow us to get a jump on hiring. So for example, we might post 5 elementary ed positions requiring a K-8 elementary ed endorsement, even though we won't necessarily know that it would be, for instance, 2 second grade positions and 3 third grade positions. We won't know the assignment, but we can grab hold of these people, thank goodness, early on. So offering contingency contracts will get us a leg up to start with.
Okay. And then February 23rd, we will do the distribution of budget and staffing allocations to the schools. We currently do this, but it is much later than this. So this will be an earlier process. And I believe the schools, I'm seeing Mary smiling, are very excited that we're moving that piece up. Then from February 23rd to March 10th, school leadership teams will be gathering the following information. There'll be requests from staff for change in status, whether it's a resignation, reduction in their FTE, etc., or a change in assignment. Requests for a new position, including funding source. Mary Ann will be out in the schools providing one-to-one support. And of course, Linda and I will also be available to assist when they have questions on that process. I don't know, Linda, do you have anything to add in that section?
Not in this section.
Okay. March 10th through 18th, we'll be doing the budget arenas with each school. We currently do those also, but much later, of course. So these will be earlier to make the decisions on budgeting and staffing. And then on March 18th, that's the deadline for the first round, that all budget and staffing plans need to be complete for all schools and departments. March 21st, Linda's going to do individual positions as posted. So Linda, do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, just to touch on that. And now, and this is earlier than we've ever done it. And these would be positions that we now know about and we've planned for and we've budgeted thanks to the early process that Brenda is outlining above. So I'm very excited that we'll get to post and we'll know what we're doing early on. And that's going to make such a huge difference, I believe, in the quality of people we get.
So then we go April 1st to July 10th. July 10th is our deadline to submit the budget to ESD 113. So we will have 2 board study sessions during that period of time, depending on how far we are in the budgeting process. We will get those dates set with you. And then the May 1st through July 10th is when I am in Westpac and my payroll person is in Westpac. We are making all the changes, fine tuning, running our edits, loading it out to OSPI, running edits again. So a lot of the work happens during that period of time. So this early process will give us a little more time to fine tune. And then May 15th through June 10th, the accounting of job descriptions and activity codes. We typically line this up anyway with the job descriptions of what people are doing, and then we're in Westpac doing our activity codes. Then May 31st through June 10th is adjustment period for budgets and staffing allocations. If we see something different in enrollment or there's new requests coming through, adjustments can be made in that process during that time period. The leadership will be working with all the schools during that period. June 10th through August 31st, HR publishes a weekly report on open positions. School leaders and department heads are responsible for screening, interviewing, and hiring as soon as possible. I'm sure Linda would like to add to this.
I would like to add to this. I'm really excited. You know, we already, the job postings are already out there publicly. Anybody can come along and take a look to see what's posted. But publishing it weekly, it keeps it front and center and for us so that our whole team knows what's open and what we need to fill. And rather than individual administrators being responsible for their own hiring, it really allows us to collectively take a look at what's needed for our district, not just our individual buildings, and help one another in the recruitment for Shelton School District staff members. So it's a little bit of a different thinking here, but I know there are a ton of networks that thread throughout our administrative staff. So if Mary Johnson has a position open that Jenny Lafreniere happens to have a great contact, Jenny will know Mary still got that position open and she can reach out to her network. That whole publishing a weekly report on these positions really will keep it front and center, and there'll be an accountability piece there, and it'll help keep us moving forward.
Okay, so then September 12th, we'll be doing the last head count across all schools to see where we're landing head count wise in that first enrollment count to see if our staffing is lining up with what we were projecting. September 16th, any final adjustments to staff as part of the enrollment shifts. Again, that's happening within a 4-day period where we're looking at enrollment and staffing. And then October 1st is our federal child count. So we'll be using that as a guideline also as we continue on through the year. So I don't know if Wyatt has anything to add to this and if you have any questions. So.
I would just say thank you to Linda, Brenda, and I know Mary Ann's kind of quiet, but she was part of this process. It's really one of the few things that I heard from almost every single stakeholder group when I walked in the door of this district was, can we hire earlier? And so this is one of our district goals for the new, especially for the new board members, is that we needed to get on this because we are a people organization and we need, as Linda's mentioned, as most talented people who meet and are a fit for the Shelton School District. We are going to have our core values and the things that we'll look for around our belief statements. And we need to start working as the next iteration of this process is making sure that we go out and recruit, screen, hire, and train folks who do meet those kind of standards. So it's like really exciting, and want to thank my team personally for just getting right into this and got this done. That's fabulous.
Yeah, thank you all. And thank you for this is a great timeline and visual for all of us. Are there any board members that have any questions or comments about this?
I just have one question, and that's, is this as early as they wanted? Did they do this whole adjustment all at once, or are we going to change the schedule again next year to get it finally where you want it?
I believe in what we worked on together as senior leadership team was this is what the principals wanted, the department heads wanted, and so that's where it wasn't, in my opinion, too hard of a shift for us to get there because we do a lot of this work. It's just been later in the process, so we're just moving it forward.
And can you maybe, Linda or Brenda, can you remind all of us when this did used to occur typically so that I mean, is this a few months that we're pushing ahead or, you know, what? was this typically occurring? And obviously it was much later in the year than what people were wanting.
Yeah, I'll just jump right in. It really, the crux of this was happening over the summer. And it really stymied us, because by then other districts have taken candidates that might have been an awesome fit for Shelton School District. So we're months ahead with this timeline. And in answer to Director Wielander's question, I agree with Brenda. This is the perfect timing for our hiring process. And I'd personally like to thank Superintendent Jesse too, and his leadership for this. As Brenda mentioned, we've done this process, but it's been 5 to 6 months after the fact. In some cases, we're hiring sometimes into the start of the school year. That's not good for our kids.
Well, first of all, good job. I'm glad you were able to do that. But what I really was just checking to make sure that you got everything that you wanted right up front, instead of dragging this out over a couple of years. So good job to all involved. Thank you.
And are there any other questions or comments, Marty or Sammy?
I'm good. Thank you.
I guess I would pop in just with a little bit of clarity on the contingency contracts. Those will be February 21st, and then the individual positions are posted March 21st. So the positions that are posted on March 21st, are those including or excluding the ones that have been assigned as contingency contracts?
Well, including somewhat, not in number, but in process, because the contingencies would be set early on, but we wouldn't know the position necessarily.
So they
So
might
when-
be assigned in March or even later.
Right. Because until we've squared away where all the other positions would be after we've gone through the process, we wouldn't really know exact assignments until then. But we know we need to capture the FTE. So in terms of FTE, the contingencies are in addition to what would happen in March.
And have we ever had contingency contracts before?
Not in my time here, and I've been here a long time. No, we have not. And many other districts do it, and we've always held back waiting for our budget process, even though we've had historical data that we have 15% of our certificated staff leave. We always have held back. I'm really excited that we're going to get a jump ahead on this with the contingency contracts.
And are there more than, I would assume it's contingent on, like you said, for the example, maybe there's 5 elementary positions that you need, but let's say for some reason or other, there only happens to be 4. That would be one of the contingencies allowed for in the contingency contract, correct?
Sure. And when you post an elementary, for instance, the example I used, those people with the certification covers K-8. So all of the planning in each of these steps takes into account the contingency contracts that we've already taken into account, and then what we know we're going to need. When we post, we would post for whatever certification requirements we need to give us the most flexibility.
And so are there other examples of other contingencies that might be in a contingency contract?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
There are, and you can structure those differently, Director Tarswell. You can make them contingent, binding, non-binding, in different cases. It just depends on what's going on and what place you're at. And so the key here that I would want everyone to know on this call is it's pretty much a zero risk kind of situation. We know we'll always hire we've always hired 5 elementary teachers. If we knew that we were headed to a dark days of an economy or a pullback from enrollment, then we wouldn't do those things, right? We wouldn't put things out there, but that's not our case, most certainly coming up on the 22-23 school year. But yeah, there's different ways of structuring it, but we'll be going to a way that Linda described it.
Okay, thank you very much. And again, I think this is a great idea. In my time on the board, I also have heard, the desire to get out a little bit earlier with our process and hire sooner. So great job on being able to make this work and look forward to the good results.
Yes, I agree. I'm excited to see this in action and see how this is going to benefit, our school district in the next year. So moving right along to 5.04, we will do the first school improvement plan, which is Mountain View Elementary with Mary Johnson and Mary Ann Marshall.
Hi, good evening, Board President Davidson and our distinguished board members. I'm not sure, Bob, it's not letting me share my screen. It's saying my sharing is paused. Does that make sense?
Okay. We see a screen that says you're starting to share, but you're right, then it just goes away. It started screen sharing. Do you have a file selected to share?
Oh yeah. Yep. And I've done this a million times. So when I pull it up, I can see that it's there, but it's telling me that it is paused. I appreciate your guys' patience this evening.
Please try it again. I
will
just
try
made
it
one
again.
change.
Your screen sharing is paused. Has anybody ever had a pause?
I have had pauses, but I'm not sure what to do about it. And technology is forever giving us the gift of these challenges. So,
If you guys can give me one moment. Yeah.
Mary, why don't you email Brenda your PowerPoint since she just got done doing hers and ask her to get that up on the screen for you.
You bet. I really apologize. I was prepared. I promise you.
well, we all had a chance to take a look at it too. It looks different in format. I'm looking forward to hearing your presentation. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, me too. Okay, just give me 1 second.
Marianne, why don't you give a little intro? Well, I know Mary's working on that, just a little bit about the school improvement process so that the board can be aware of how we work with schools and maybe a few adjustments that we made to this process.
Yeah, absolutely. So this year we had worked with all of our buildings, and particularly our elementary schools, to create a school improvement plan that's focused on academics around ELA, and then they were to choose a goal around social emotional learning or discipline and attendance for their building. And so tonight you're going to see Mary present and share her story on what her building is doing to support growth in ELA. And so she'll talk about a little bit about the strategies that her teachers are using, as well as show some pictures of those strategies and the work that they're doing to help just give you a clearer picture of what is going on at Mountain View. The SIP process is a process that's not done in isolation. We do partner with our schools. I know Wyatt and myself have been out in schools talking about SIPs. School leaders also work with their building teams to help put together the SIP. So it is a collaborative process, again, not done in isolation. And after the SIP is put together, of course, we always are working on refining that SIP as we move throughout the year. Building principals share that SIP not only with their building leadership teams, but they also present that information throughout the year with their entire school.
Okay, Mary. I'm gonna give it a shot here. Make sure I get the right one.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Brenda.
Brenda, thank you so much. So
You're
again,
welcome.
good evening, President Davidson and distinguished board members. I am Mary Johnson, and this is my 4th year as principal at Mountain View Elementary. I'm here tonight with Alex Brown-Smith, who is our assistant principal. Do you want to say hi real quick, Alex?
Hello, board members. Thank you for having me.
We were really excited to be here tonight to share with you a brief snapshot into the work that we are doing at Mountain View right now. I hope you guys have had an opportunity to review our SIP and our slides, and I hope you enjoy our presentation. Our first slide here tonight targets our first goal, which is around 3rd grade ELA. We've outlined, and as a staff, we have worked hard to identify some specific strategies that we will use. And we've talked a lot about the systems and structures that we will put into place. I'm going to talk to you a little more about those over the next 2 slides. Brenda, could you move on to the next slide? Excellent. All right. This slide has some of the really exciting work that we have been doing around teacher efficacy and our professional development. So in this first photo that you see, this was our teaching staff working together this fall. We worked in September, actually August, September, and October around what is our why. So we talked a lot about what our values are in our building, and then together collectively, we talked about our purpose, our belief system. Why are we doing this work? So you'll see down here right below that picture is just a lot of the whys from our staff. We put together just a little combination of words. After we worked with the why, we got together and talked about we have a lot of different experiences in our building. And so we talked about the importance of kind of narrowing in to some of those best practices. So we worked with our staff on the practices that they have been using and or have heard of around some of those high yield strategies. In September, they did a lot of investigation on their own. We gave a survey, and you'll see this chart across the top outline some of the top about 10 or 12 strategies that our staff have either used or were interested in investigating more. And then at our October 28th staff development, we got together and we had selected 6, the top 6. And our teachers spent some time in vertical teams, kindergarten through 4th grade, working to do a little deeper investigation into what are these strategies and what's the impact primarily for like our English language learners and some of our other students who might need some extra supports. And through that process, they identified the strategies that you saw on our SIP that we really want to narrow in on. So vocabulary instruction, classroom discussions and academic language, and activating that prior knowledge to really build comprehension, as well as the need for our staff to be teaching some reading foundational skills. Primarily, we do that in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade, but being that we've had kind of a different school setting the last couple of years, we've definitely identified that we need to do some reading foundational skills in some of the other areas as well. This all led to leadership putting together just this past week our PD calendar for the remainder of the year. So we focused kind of some training in October and November around getting our teachers that literacy instruction training. And then you'll see that starting in January, we're going to be working on activating prior knowledge, vocabulary strategies, and some language acquisition. Next page. This is some really exciting work. So our teachers, you will see here, our teachers are really working at really integrating all of the important reading strategies. So when we think about reading, we think about those elements of reading foundational skills, prior knowledge, vocabulary, comprehension. So these photos are showing you some 3rd and 4th grade classrooms that are doing some of this work. So in the top corner, you'll see Mrs. Daigle, 3rd grade teacher. She is doing some work with syllabication. So she's going into the curriculum that she is teaching and the lessons that she's teaching, and she's helping the students do some what we call multisyllabic on some of the larger words, breaking those down before they actually see them in their lessons. You will also see in these next few photos, you've got some students, they are engaging in some academic language. So the little circle map that you see off to the side is really exciting. These lessons were all facilitated. They were co-taught by a couple of our 3rd and 4th grade teachers and one of our EL teachers, Kelly. And students used academic language, and you'll see from this T chart, they were talking about what is the difference between conversational skills and academic language, or having academic discussions. And so they talked about that first, and then they engaged in some discussions around why is it important for us to learn about other places. It was a perfect time to do this lesson because we had just spent the month of October really honoring the our Mexican heritage, and then we worked in November around Native Americans. So it was a really great time. They had some prior knowledge to choose from, or to already learn from. But why was that important? So they worked in small groups, they worked in large groups, and they just came up with some really great ways. And then the really awesome thing was they got to interact with a lot of different types of literature. So books, trade books right off the bookshelf, materials and passages right from our reading curriculum for reading. And then they took that and they paired it right into writing. So we talk a lot about that balanced literacy approach of not just spending time reading in isolation, but then taking and what we've learned through our reading and applying it to writing. So here you'll see the students were tasked with writing a kind of a persuasive piece on why it was important to them to begin learning about other places. And it's really, we've noticed that it's really important that, we can't just do reading in isolation. So our teachers are really excited and have been working at integrating their curriculum. So instead of just teaching social studies or science or ELA separately, that they're really integrating those together when they can. And that really we try to do the most of our work right through core, because that's where I hate to say this, but that's sort of where the magic works, is in core. All students in core learning everything. Next slide. I apologize if I'm talking fast. Okay, this is our second target, and we decided at Mountain View to focus on discipline. We have done a lot of really great work over the last 3 years around what we call our PBIS Tier 1 systems of supports. And so we really wanted to look at reducing the types of what we call major office referrals. So you'll see that we also went through the same process and looked at some strategies and some systems and supports that we currently have in place, as well as how we can revise those and continue to move forward with that. So if you move on to the next slide, this is a little bit about our story. We chose discipline. If you look at the first chart, the bar graph, you will see the green lines indicate our discipline data from the 2019-20 school year. So you'll see it stops in March because we went out and thank goodness didn't experience a lot of discipline while we were doing online learning. But we were averaging as high as in October, we were up to 6 major referrals a day. So we really wanted to look at what was going on there. And the orange indicates our data so far this year, which is exciting. You'll see in September we came in, we didn't have a lot of discipline type of referrals. October went up a little bit, November went up a little bit, and while December looks low, December is kind of rising up there as well. And one of the reasons for that is, as we look at the well-being of our students, we know that this time of year, the holidays can sometimes be challenging. It's not always an exciting time for everybody. There's a lot of angst, a lot of financial issues, and then just the fear of going home over 2 weeks, over the next 2 weeks. Again, we worked super hard on our Tier 1 support. So Tier 1 supports meaning every child at Mountain View Elementary benefits from Tier 1. All children are Gen Ed Kids First. So we work together as a staff to create kind of our pledge. We believe at Mountain View that we are choosing to be kind, be safe, and work hard. And so one of the first steps that we did was to put together a matrix, and you'll see across the top here, it's a matrix of common expectations in kind of our common areas. So our hallways, our stairs, our bathrooms, breakfast, recess, we have them for all of our areas. And you'll see a picture of these cute little boys down here. They were entering into the lunchroom cafeteria, and we were talking with them about, what is something that you need to do to show kindness? And so they're looking over the chart of the kinds of expected behaviors for that. Our teachers mimic this in their classrooms as well and create expectations and procedures in their classroom that also focus on being kind, being safe, and working hard. And then down here at the bottom, confetti is one of our Tier 1 interventions, or I guess I should say supports that we have. And so children can earn little pieces of confetti in every setting in our building. So if they walk down the hall, we see them doing something great, we'll say, oh my gosh, thank you for working so kindly. And we acknowledge it so they know why they're getting it. We put their name on it, they take it to class. Teachers make a really big deal about it. The other kids are really excited about it. Teachers can hand out confetti in their classroom. And then teachers usually do something throughout the week with their confetti. And then they bring it down to the office. And Thursday evenings, Friday mornings, Alex and I select 10 students, 2 from every grade level, and we acknowledge them. So you'll see this picture down here are the 10 students for that week. They get a certificate. We had little bracelets made that say, be kind, be safe, work hard, and pencils. So they get those. We make a pretty big deal about it. And then this year, really exciting, we also have a school-wide system. So once we've done that, we dump them all into this big box that we have that's almost half full. And throughout, as that box fills up, kids get to help us determine what kinds of fun events we might do in the building. This week we have Spirit Week, so they're all getting their favorite on Friday, which is Pajama Day. All right, well, the last thing I want to say about this is we use this 10% rule, for example. So when we're looking at the types of, we have lots of conversations through our Tier 1 team. We have a very strong Tier 1 team. Made up primarily of gen ed classroom teachers and para-educators, and they're constantly looking at what is going well. So when we look at our data, if we have 10% of our students that are, or I should say, if 90% of our kids are doing well, we're doing a great job. If it's less than 10%, we know that it's a student-specific issue. If it's more than 10%, we know it's a systems issue and we need to come in and look at our systems and procedures. And so it really helps us not throw everything out. If we're having maybe a couple of technical difficulties, we really know to target maybe some specific areas. Right now, if I was to pull our data, I would tell you that our #1 area is our playground. We already knew that. It's great to see data to support that. And so we know we're going in and doing some work on our playground. And then we also have an extremely strong MTSS Tier 2 and 3 team. And that is for students that everybody gets Tier 1, but there might be kids that need just a little more support. That could look like some very specific social skills. It could look like just a check in and check out. And so our tier team, both those teams meet once to twice a month. Okay, thank you all. I know I went fast. I could talk all night about my building. But do you guys have any questions for us?
No, that was a great report. Thank you very much. It's really nice to see the pictures, especially when we can't be in the schools ourselves, seeing those right now and just the different drawings. I always enjoy that. I am curious, like when you're talking about discipline issues on the playground and data to support that. So what does that look like? Is that, you're reporting that and somebody's tallying that up over time? What is that essentially looking like?
So we use SWIS, a school-wide information system, was developed through the University of Oregon. And so we have referral forms that match our SWIS system. So if we have identified our behaviors, we have teacher managed minor behaviors that are kind of teacher or just managed with just some sort of classroom or paraeducator routine. And then we have a major, which is maybe something that's a little more egregious. I mean, something that we just need to take a little more look at, I guess I should say. And so teachers will impose lots of positive rewards and stuff. But if a child has done something that we really feel like we need to document, they'll fill out a form. It's the same. It will just be major or minor. And for the minor types of behaviors, we have a paratech that we hired this year who will do a lot of the kind of in the moment, on the spot, like, hey, let's talk a little bit about what happened. We use a lot of restorative practices in our building. So it's about, we all at times do things, but what can we do to restore this relationship, or what can we do to restore this situation? Majors are usually handled more by Alex Brown-Smith, our assistant principal, and those usually involve, again, some restorative work, some conversations with the kids, quite often a reach out to a parent about what's going on. So then that information gets put into our system, and we look at our data every week to determine, tier 2 met last week, and they looked at the top 10. So who are the top 10 that are in our building and what kinds of things are going on? And then they work through a really great system to start putting some supports and interventions into place to target those students. I think that we're having some challenges on the playground for a few reasons. Kids haven't had an opportunity to play together. right? And you know, it's been a really different world. So they come back out and we just have to go over the rules and reteach. They're so excited to see each other, right? So we've got definitely have some work to do. We had a lot of new playground staff. Almost our entire playground team is new this year. So, you know, it takes a little while for people to calibrate and just, you know, and really reinforce and teach those expectations.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Did that help?
Yeah, that does. I, just was curious when you were mentioning that, what that actually looked like, considering I don't work in education, and just hearing, what that actually looks like is very helpful. Do any other board members have any questions or comments for Mary or Alex?
I think it's, go ahead, Benji.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say it looks well laid out, well thought out. I like the participatory process and the fact that we're not overlooking anybody, that, as I always say, there's always someone who could use a little extra assistance to get up the ladder. So I think it's well laid out. Thank you.
Thank you.
The only comment I had is as I get used to all the buzzwords, the strategy to use strategies, that hit me kind of odd, but otherwise it's a good looking plan, and obviously you've done a bunch of work, so thank you.
Thank you. Can I help with the strategies piece at all?
In my world, it's all strategy and tactics. So, you would probably break those out a little bit differently, but if, everybody in education is using strategies and that all falls under your strategy board, then, I'm not going to change it. It looks odd to me in the world that I work in.
Thank you so much for the feedback.
I had no questions, just thank you for the report.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Sandy. And thank you, Mary and Alex, for the report. That was great. I think that was our first school improvement plan. So thank you for being the first one up and going through all of that. We definitely appreciate hearing what's going on in the schools.
Thank you for having us.
So we will move
Yes,
on
thank you.
to item number 6, which is the consent agenda. And as I mentioned before, 6.02 does have a revision in the personnel report. So just be aware of that as well too. Everything else remains the same.
I move
there
we
any-
adopt the consent agenda with the revisions as submitted.
And I will second that.
All right, we've had a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. Hearing none, the consent agenda has passed. And then item number 7, discussion and action items. It looks like we do not have anything under the discussion and action item section this evening. So we will go straight to the second opportunity for community comments. And I'm not seeing any new additions to our meeting. Bob, do you see anything that I am not seeing?
No, Madam President, I do not.
While we take a pause to see if anybody decides to have a community comment at this time, do you want to remind people how they raise their hand for that?
Sure. For people calling in, if everybody calls in automatically muted, you control the mute button with a *6 on your phone to mute and unmute yourself. And if you wish to make a comment, please raise your hand, which is *9. You will be called upon when by the board chair when it's your turn to comment. And then once you're called upon, then please press *6 to unmute yourself and continue with your comments. I will have a timer running for 3 minutes at the start of your comments.
Thank you for the reminder for that, Bob.
Ma'am.
And it does not look like we have anyone else for board, or excuse me, for community comments. So we will go into the board member comments. And Marty, we will start with you tonight since you are right there front and center on my screen.
I'm right next to you. I always like to watch Zoom meetings when people bounce around to different spots for some unknown technological reason that Bob could explain. No, I just wanted to express you know, my appreciation for the work that the staff, the admin staff, the leadership is doing. And as I mentioned earlier, I just wanted to point out, it's easy to find fault or make complaints, especially when there's a lot of stuff going on we've had for the last 18 to 20 months. But I wanted to point out tonight something that I saw today that I thought was worthy of what I call kudos. I had to working from home, running some papers down to the city offices, and observed bus 130 coming down 7th and made a left-hand turn onto Wyandotte with a vehicle at the stop sign. And coming from the transit world, I was extremely impressed with that square corner that the driver made. They're not easy to do, but what it indicated to me was the level of training our drivers were having, their attention to detail, the attention to safety. And this was on a snowy, icy morning. So if the administration could just pass on to the bus barn or the driver that they are being watched, and we do appreciate all the hard work that they do. And from a transit professional, I just really was impressed. He could drive my car anytime. Or he, she, I don't know what the driver's gender was. I mean, the driver non-specific. Thank you. That's
All right, thank you, Marty. Matt, you are up next for board member comments.
Sure. The first thing is I wish somebody from ROTC was here because they cleaned up on their big event this week. I saw a whole bunch of first and second places for both team and individual awards, which leads me to the football, which obviously at some point I knew a little bit more about, but they had 10 of the all league academic all-stars, or however that was put. And I guess what bugged me was I don't know how any of the other sports did. And I wonder if in the future it would be appropriate to have the athletic directors come up, once a season or whatever, and let us know how the student athletes are doing in that realm. I know in the past we put a bunch of work in improving the standards that the students had to be able to play, to the point that we have a higher level of expectations than the WIAA. And so I would like to see how our folks are doing and really celebrate those all league academic athletes and everything that they're doing. Lastly, going through the board report, thanks for all the hard work, guys. You're obviously doing a ton behind the scenes, and you took your little bit of a quasi marching order from our little work group, and you ran forward and did, and it's appreciated. So thank you.
All right, thank you for your comments, Matt. Sandy, you are up.
Yes, good evening. Just a couple of items. I saw the doors on the Met Building. So just one more step to being completely done. And just with the weather today, just everybody be safe as you travel to and from wherever you're going. And that's really all I have for tonight. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Sandy. I just honestly can't believe that we're already here for the last board meeting of this school year for the year with our new board and everything. So that's very exciting. We're definitely missing Marilyn tonight, and we'll have her once we start up again in January. But yes, my daughter finished her basketball season officially as of today. They had their wrap-up party, and it's just really hard to believe we've already gone through several sports and moving right along. And just what Matt said, I was seeing all of the, kudos to our NJROTC. They looked like they did really well at the competition there in Oregon. I know our wrestlers are doing well. It's always exciting to see the different posts that go up about all of the different student groups. I want to say there was either robotics or cybersecurity team that also did very well that I just saw today. So all of that is really exciting to see. And just with the holiday events that are going on around town, whether it's the Christmas maze or the, you know, the reverse parade that they did where I saw the dance team and different people able to participate in that. It's nice to have all of those things. And I too want to thank all of the district office staff, all of our teachers, all of our, just everybody that works in any way, shape, or form for our school district. And I truly hope that you're able to take a bit of time over this break to, you know, recharge and renew. This has again been a very challenging year in a whole different way than the previous year. And, you know, we're still navigating our way through some of this. So I do really hope everybody's able to take a chance to rest and take a break. And with that, we do actually have an exempt session tonight. So before we adjourn the meeting, we do need to go into that. And then we will come out and adjourn the meeting after we are finished with that. I always get nervous that I'm going to hit the leave meeting, you know. It looks like Sandy, we are waiting for her.
She's showing us oh, here she
Oh,
comes.
she's here.
Yep.
Your beaming over got delayed, but you are on mute too, so we can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Don't know what happened.
No, that's all right. I'm glad we all made it back, and we made it back a few minutes shy of our 15-minute time frame too, so that's good. So after that exempt session, is there a motion?
I'll move that we approve the Teamster contract for drivers.
Second.
I'll vote for
Okay,
it.
it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 You can have the next one, Matt.
Okay.
All those opposed say no. Hearing none. The Teamsters, that was the drivers, wasn't it? Contract has passed. So we've got one other motion to make.
I'll move that we approve the Teamsters contract for the mechanics.
I'll second it.
All right. It has been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Hearing none, the Teamsters mechanics contract has passed. And
Thank you.
Now we just need one more motion. Who would like to close our meeting out for the rest of 2021?
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Okay, great. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right, that has passed. I can definitely see everybody has moved to adjourn.
All right.
Well, thank you all. If there are any questions or anything that comes up over the break time, feel free to shoot me a text or a message. Otherwise, we'll see each other in January.
Everyone have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
You too.